Good afternoon, everybody. This afternoon's evidential proceedings are going to be live streamed, but after a 10-minute delay. Those with mobile devices may report what they hear in the hearing room, but only after 10 minutes have elapsed since the event that they're reporting. They may not be used for photography or recording. Mr. Barr.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jenner, can I move now to the question of the absence of reporting about Alison? She attended the CRC?
Yes, she did, yes, initially.
And she spoke regularly on issues of interest to her, such as education?
She may have done, yes, in the early days.
And anti-fascism?
Again, possibly, I don't know.
And as you've said, your approach was to hoover up information. She recalls being at the meeting to launch resistance. Do you agree?
Yes, she would have been, yeah.
And also at the meeting to close the CRC.
Yes, yeah, undoubtedly.
Why is there no mention of Alison in any of your reporting?
I can't answer that. She certainly in the early days when I was going to, when I first started going there, everyone who'd introduced themselves to me as the initial membership, but I didn't really know who was what and how important or relevant they were at that particular time. So she'd have been mentioned on that. I know that there's an inference that I deliberately kept her out of the of that, but that wasn't my intention. I think if she hasn't been mentioned on it, there's no motive on my part not to have her mentioned. Either it was only the significant people at that meeting or not. That was my recollection of it. There's no intent on my part not to mention her because of my relationship with her subsequently.
Does it follow from that answer that you did not consider Alison's contribution to the political life of the CRC to be significant?
Well, I think her involvement, she wasn't particularly involved. She went to those meetings that you've described there, but she was, I'd say, reluctant a lot of the time. I got her interest was sort of waning. That was my impression. A lot of the meetings she didn't go to, so I wouldn't have called her a regular attendee at the CRC, no.
If it was suggested that you were rather dismissive of her political contributions to the life of the CRC, would you accept that?
No, I wouldn't accept that, no, not at all.
Why not?
Well, because obviously she's been commitment, she'd been around there before I was involved. I'm not dismissive of it. There was probably a lot of people in these meetings that I didn't mention.
Could we have now the document at tab B70, MPS 309529? This is a recommendation for your commendation. And it, if we go to the penultimate paragraph, please. All SDS officers and their families undergo considerable upheaval during the course of their tours of duty. DC Jenner was no exception. On many occasions, his work interfered with his leave period, but he accepted without question the exigencies of his work and the need to give that priority over domestic arrangements. That appears to have been written by somebody who understood that you were not taking leave in the normal way.
No, I wouldn't read it as that. I mean, this is a very generalised summary of my involvement. I don't know who would have written this. But
if we go over the page and see who it's...
Okay.
It's HN 58.
Okay. Bear with me. Okay. I think it was, I mean, it's a commendation. It's basically, it's a thanks. It's not a medal or anything of that significance. It's purely a special branch recommendation for the work that you did. But certainly, you know, in leave period accepted without the question of exigencies of his work, well, all special branch SDS officers gave up nobody used up all their annual leave allocation. That was a normal thing. So yeah, I think that's a generalisation rather than specific to me in my circumstances.
By this stage, the 15th of September 2000, did HN 58 know about your sexual relationship with Alison?
I don't know, because I didn't go back to work until October, a couple of years, it's a couple of weeks later.
Can we take that down now, please? Just a question I should have asked you about the lack of reporting on Alison. Was any part of your motivation in not reporting on Alison to try and cover up your sexual relationship
Not
with
at
her?
all, no.
Speaking to future UCOs, is it right that you spoke to Carlo Siraki before he deployed?
I did.
Did you discuss with him the question of, as it had been put to you, the inevitability of sexual relationships undercover?
No, we didn't. It was our discussions mainly were around similar AFA, Red Action, that type of, not any sort of relationship side of it. No, not at all.
So were you talking to him about people like Steve Headley and Frank Smith?
Yeah, there were not about Frank Smith. I didn't really know Frank Smith, but certainly Headley, yeah.
And telling him that Mr. Headley was a violent man?
Well, I told him the sort of character he was in my experience. That's all. Him and various others who he may come in contact with.
What I'm driving at is, did you describe Mr. Headley to Carlos Siraki in the terms that we saw written up in the report?
I think, yeah, that was my assessment of him. Yeah, he could handle himself, and he could be a violent man.
Although you'd not actually seen him being violent.
No, but by reputation and what I knew of him, that was my opinion of him. That's all.
And are you sure there was no mention of sexual activity undercover at all when speaking to Siraki?
No, I didn't. And I would never mention that to any of the colleagues. Again, it was the same sort of scenario as it was when I joined that unit. It just wasn't spoken about, and I certainly wasn't going to, and he never asked me.
But it had been a very big part of your relation, of your deployment, and in the matters that we were going over before the luncheon adjournment, matters which you told us caused you a lot of turmoil. Mm-hmm. Did you not warn him?
No, I didn't.
Can we have up from tab B71, MPS 309432? Now, I appreciate that this is a document that post-dates your time in the SDS. It's dated the 10th of October 2000. It's an office note, and it is about the possibility of having external people acting as girlfriend or boyfriend to an undercover police officer. If we could go if we go page 5, sort of paragraph 5, which starts at the bottom of page 1 and goes over to page 2. I'll give you a moment to read paragraph 5.
Okay.
So the wording of that suggests that the author knew that your circumstances were such that nobody would need to ask about your situation so far as sexual relationships are concerned.
That's what it reads like, yes.
And of course, the truth was that's correct because you were in a sexual relationship with Alison.
Correct.
If we could zoom out of that and look at who's signed this, it's produced by Sergeant Tiddy, and it's going to HN 58, HN 53, and Sergeant Noel Warren, Bernard Greeny. It reads as if Tiddy might have known. Can you help us any further whether Sergeant Tiddy knew about your relationship with Alison by this time?
Well, I can only speculate. I knew that Sergeant Tiddy was on very friendly terms with HN 58. So the question really is was HN 58 aware of my circumstances at the time and whether they spoke, but I couldn't say for sure, no.
And in terms of helping us any further with management knowledge, do you know whether or not HN 53 knew of your sexual relationship with Alison?
Not as far as I was aware, no.
Sergeant McIntosh?
No.
Sergeant Webb?
Possibly, I don't know.
Sergeant War?
Yes.
And Sergeant Greeny?
I don't know.
Can you help me with how Sergeant War knew?
Well, that was the officer that claimed to have seen me with a girlfriend. That was
Back to this morning's evidence. Yeah. Thank you. Can we now take that document down and have up tab B45 749 473, page 3, please. This is a file note produced by HN 53 on the 16th of July 2001. Could we expand the text, please? Give you a moment to absorb that.
Okay, yeah.
So the paragraph that I'm interested in is the one that begins, TS is relatively relaxed. Somebody is trying to find you. Can I take it that somebody spoke to you about this inquiry?
I think it might have been the person on here called Terry directly.
And HN 53 wrote this, so HN 53 must have got it from somewhere. Has he got it from you? Has he spoken to you about it?
Yeah, I spoke to him, I think. So, yes, I gave him that information.
And so you said to him something to the effect of you thought it might be Alison behind these inquiries.
That was my initial thought, yeah.
And did you what context did you give HN 53 about that?
About my reasons for
Yes.
suspecting it was, well, I think it was because it was just one of the people that I was, close to, and this is, an inquiry based on that. I kept it very loose, and, as I see, I wasn't going to go back into all of the wherewithal, so I reverted back to saying that, yeah, he occupied a room in his former duff, and the girlfriend of Mark Metcalf. That was just because at this stage, I was trying to detach myself away from this. I just sort of give him that story and he can run with it.
So let me be clear. So you lied to HN 53 by telling him that Alison was Mark Metcalf's girlfriend?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
And you did that to keep the knowledge of your sexual relationship from him.
Yeah, completely that, yeah.
Did he make any inquiry of you as to why Alison might be sufficiently concerned about your welfare to be putting in hand investigations after your whereabouts?
I can't remember, but part of my the exit was, and the reason that I went back for that time was to gauge the reaction from people that I know, not just Alison. So they were aware of that, and also I think there would be inquiries about people who were concerned about my welfare. So that was, that was the background to that. Yes.
What I'm driving at was HN53 at all inquisitive with you as to why a woman would be going to quite significant lengths to try and find you?
No, because I think in this particular instance, it wasn't. I think it was a woman. I think on this particular one, it was a male.
Yeah, well, we can have up, there's another document on the subject. It's a document ending 9531. It's an MPS number. 3 zeros. We could have the text expanded, please. It says, Bob Lambert contacted the office on Friday the 28th of May to say that Terry had contacted him to say that he had had a phone call from a female calling herself Alison, who was inquiring where a touchy subject could be. She made reference to your white van and that he'd bought it off Terry. She also spoke of TS coming from Birkenhead and referred to his father's illness. She said that she thought he was probably touring around Germany in his white van. Then it explains essentially that there was a very vague response from Terry. Is it still your evidence that Terry spoke to you?
This is separate from the previous one, is it?
This is the 28th of May, and the document, what I was asking you about was a document dated the 25th of June.
Because there were two contacts during this, I can't remember which one was which. The first was, I think that was just it was inquiries that were made, and it turned out to be a private investigator. I don't know if that's the same. Yeah,
the private investigator was instructed by Alison on the 24th, the day before the document that I showed you a moment ago.
Okay, all right. So yeah, on this occasion, no, I don't think I spoke to Terry on this occasion. I certainly did the first time round, because he said that.
Let me see if I can help. Our understanding is that Alison has called Terry in May.
Yes.
And that an investigator calls Terry in June.
Right. Okay. When Alison contacted Terry, Terry then contacted me to say that someone, what did he say, purporting to be my partner, I think it was, had been in touch making inquiries. And that was then I contacted the office, and we got the ball rolling on the back of that, which probably ties into the first inquiry. But on the second time round, no, I didn't speak to Terry. I'd have got that from the office, I think.
In terms of the document we were looking at a moment ago was from the second occasion, the one with the false information about Metcalfe and Alison. After Alison contacts Terry, making the first contact in May, you say that you spoke to Terry and then management to set the ball rolling. What did you say to management on that occasion?
I just said that, exactly as it sounded, Terry had phoned me and there was a female had contacted and making inquiries about my whereabouts. I think I kept it pretty vague from what I can remember. I can't remember my exact wording.
But you covered up the fact that she'd said that she was your partner.
I think, yes, I must have done, yeah. I wasn't going to declare that, no.
If we take that document down now, and if we have the first one back, B45 749 473, page 3. We could go over the page. In fact, can we go back to page 2? If we expand that, please. This is, again, by HN53, and it is an investigation into who's been calling Terry. And it essentially finds out that it's somebody involved in investigations. And the text says, when I spoke to TS, he mentioned that he had been involved in a touch in his van sometime shortly before Christmas 1999. At the moment, I cannot lay hands on any relevant documentation, but Touchy's subject did say that the driver of the vehicle was Asian and that there had been a couple of follow-up calls from him in the immediate aftermath. It may therefore be that this inquiry is somehow related to the touch. Can we just be clear? Was there a road traffic accident, or is this part of a trail you are laying to cover up the fact of your sexual relationship with that? Alison?
No, I mean, there was a bit of a touch. I remember it happening in Rotherhithe. It was a bit of a standoff with these blokes who did take the registration of the van. But, I mean, that's what did happen. I'd forgotten about that until I read that then. But certainly at this stage, I wasn't going to allude or make any sort of reference to Alison or that whole relationships thing. I was pushing myself away from all of that.
Back to your recollection of the call coming in first from Alison and then from a private investigator. Can you remember how far apart they were as far as you're concerned?
Not for definite, but I'm sure they can only be like about a month or a couple of weeks apart. It wasn't far.
Can we take that down now? You've already given some evidence that Boiling knew about your relationship with Alison from seeing you together. Mr. Boiling's evidence is that you were quite open with him about the fact of that relationship. Is that right?
I think once he'd seen me, yes. I mean, I did speak to him about it. I wouldn't very deny it. He'd seen me in the street. I hadn't spotted him at the time, but yeah, I did speak to him about it.
Turning to the question of officers who did not have sexual relationships undercover, is it your understanding that HN 81 did not?
Hold on. Yes.
Is it your understanding that HN 3 did not?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that HN 60 did not?
Yes.
Dealing first of all with HN 81, your evidence has been, I'll take 81 as the example, your evidence has been that it would have been unsustainable not to have a sexual relationship. HN81 managed it. He found it sustainable. Would you accept that if you had wanted to avoid a sexual relationship undercover, you could have done so?
Yes, it would have been possible to do it. Yeah.
If it had been a specific criminal offence for an undercover police officer to deceive a member of the public into sexual activity, would you have sexually deceived Alison?
No, I wouldn't have joined the SDS.
Can we go to now the document at B78 726 507? We're moving forward a long way in time now. If we could expand that document, please. This is an interview with people who are managing the risk following an indie media article about you on the internet. Takes place on the 7th of February at Tintagel House. You're present with a detective inspector and Detective Sergeant HN367. Do you recall this interview?
I don't actually, no.
If we go to page 4, please. Second paragraph. Sorry, the paragraph that begins within a year. Thank you. Within a year, he had found himself a long-term partner, Alison. Now, this is stating what the Indomedia article said, who was also active in the centre. MJ stated that he did not have a relationship with anybody when deployed. He believes Alison was an ex-girlfriend of Mark Metcalf. That was simply a lie, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
He added Alison was in a relationship with a male named Bert, who started a travel business called Privacy. That was a lie as well, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
If we go down now to page 5, the last sentence on the third paragraph, please. When you read it, it's towards the end I'm interested in. This is about your exfiltration. The reference to a communal phone was a lie, wasn't it? At Alison's flat.
Yes, yes, that was a lie, yeah.
Page 5, fourth paragraph. This is about the credit card being found. You'll see in the fourth line, MJ stated he did not lose any real or covert documentation. He added that one occupant of the privacy flat was Privacy, who was a petty thief, and that may explain documents. Cannot recall the incident explained. Those were lies, weren't they?
Yes, they were.
Page 5, fifth paragraph, please. Give you a moment to read that.
Yeah, okay.
So in terms of who had gone to Vietnam and in terms of the denial of counselling, more lies.
Yes.
Page 7. And right towards the bottom, the very end. Asked MJ if he had been involved in any criminality. He said he did not wish to incriminate himself. Above that, asked if he had taken drugs. Said he hadn't. MJ, if he had had a sexual relationship whilst he was deployed. MJ said he had not had a sexual relationship. More lies.
Yes, yeah.
Why were you lying to these risk assessors?
Because I really didn't care at that moment. This is sort of 11 years on. And I was doing my best to put all of this behind me. So I wasn't interested, basically.
Are you a man who lies readily?
When it comes to the STS matters, yes, obviously I was at that time.
Could we take that down now and have up tab B81 72270? And if we go, thank you. I'll give you a moment to absorb this, but this is the disciplinary charge that was raised against you in July 2013, isn't it?
Yes, it is, yeah.
As a result of Operation Hearn's investigation.
Yeah.
So just keep that up. But go back to 2011 when you were being spoken to by the risk assessors. You're still a serving police officer at that time, aren't you?
I am, yes.
And you know that sleeping with members of the public as an undercover police officer is wrong.
Yes, yes. By this stage, yes.
And you know that if you had admitted to the risk assessors in 2011, you would be exposing yourself at the very least to professional misconduct charges.
Correct.
Of the kind that were likely to lead to your dismissal in disgrace from the police force.
Potentially, yes.
And that you might even find yourself in trouble with the criminal law.
Potentially, yes.
For misconduct in public office.
Yes.
Is that why you were lying?
In 2011?
Yeah.
No, I think at that time there was it was starting to unravel anyway around the sort of publicity thing. I don't know. I just didn't want to admit it to the office at that time. Although, by weight of the evidence that was coming in publicly, I didn't have a lot of choice. So, yeah, I was trying to hold out for as long as I could.
At least in part to prevent the disciplinary consequences being visited upon you.
Well, potentially, but I had no control over that.
Could you explain?
Well, if I was put under a disciplinary action, then of course I couldn't. That's what they were going to do. Once it had got to that stage, and I was going to be interviewed under caution, of course I couldn't. I wasn't going to lie then.
Well, I'm talking about 2011. You haven't been charged at that point, but you must have known that if you had admitted to the risk assessors what you'd actually done,
yes,
you would be charged.
Yeah, well, I'd certainly investigated, yes.
And probably sacked.
Possibly, that is a possible consequence, yeah.
And so my question to you is, avoiding that consequence was one of the reasons you lied to the risk assessors?
Well, yes, that would have been part of the considerations, definitely.
Let's go to those disciplinary charges. Nothing actually came of them, did they?
No.
So your lies to the risk assessors helped to save you from a gross misconduct dismissal, didn't they?
Well, possibly, yes.
And the consequence of that was it delayed justice for Alison, didn't it?
If you say so, yes. I'm assuming it would do, yeah.
Did you think about it in that way at all at the time?
No.
Did you think about Alison at all?
At this stage,
yes.
No.
S finding out. She says that she found out about the relationship when it was disclosed by The Guardian at the end of 2011. We can take that document down now. But she says that she didn't fully understand the article and thought they'd got their facts wrong. She says that you telephoned her the day before that article was published to warn her that you were being outed. Did you do that?
Yes.
She says that you didn't mention the relationship in that call.
No, I didn't.
And is that because you were holding out for as long as possible?
I needed thinking time. I'd rather speak to her face-to-face than a phone call, yeah.
Did you speak to her face-to-face?
About that relationship? No, I didn't.
Why not?
It was a conversation that was just too difficult at the time, and I didn't. In hindsight, I should have done. But of course, by that time, when I did consider doing that, the relationship was broken down anyway, and she didn't want to speak to me.
Moral cowardice?
I think so, yeah.
S's evidence was that the exaggeration of the threat posed made things worse. She thought that you were infiltrating actual terrorists. Can you help us with what S knew about the level of threat during the course of your deployment?
Well, I think she'd have known that there was an Irish element to my deployment, and she'd certainly known that I'd been involved with violent individuals, and there was potential, obviously, for repercussions on the back of that, hence the need for the security measures at home.
Was she labouring under the apprehension that the threat was worse than that?
Well,
that they were
for
serious terrorists?
Well, a serious, someone invading your home with an intent to get to me, yeah, that is pretty serious and worrying for her, of course.
At the point of your being outed, did you speak to her at all about the level of risk she would be at?
We spoke about it, but it was obviously mitigated by the physical security that was put in place around the house at the time. But obviously the location of where the house was at that time did make it very difficult. It was reasonably isolated, so...
Putting the question in the round, was your ex-wife allowed to labour under the misapprehension that the threat to her was greater than it actually was?
No, I don't think so, no. Because it was a threat that would have been directed at me, not her.
But because you were living together as a family, threat to you was also a threat
of course,
to her
yeah.
and to your children.
Exactly that, yeah. Yeah. So any sort of threat would have been, of a very serious nature, and I understand completely why she was worried about that.
Can we now go to your interview with Operation Hearn, 24th of October 2013. So this follows the charge in the middle of July. It's 722562, tab B83. Go to page 2, thank you. This is the beginning of a record of interview. It's a record of a taped interview with you and it says that you were interviewed by a Detective Constable Andrew and another Detective Constable, and you had with you your solicitor, Mr. Ingram. And we can see the date there, 24th of October,
Yes.
2013. If we go to page 3, please. This was an interview under caution, wasn't it?
It was.
And if we go to page 4, and if we look at the first paragraph under your name, I just want to make a statement that I deny that I have acted in any way contrary to the law or in breach of the standard of professional behaviour. My acts were in the working undercover for the SDS or with the knowledge and approval of my line managers. Having taken legal advice, I do not intend to make any or answer any further questions at this stage. So essentially, you made a no comment interview.
Correct.
Those words as uttered are slightly garbled. If we take that down and have up from tab B84 0739037, this is the report of that interview, and halfway down the page it says Mr. Mark Jenner then read out a pre-prepared statement, and it's quoted there, I deny that I have acted in a way contrary to the law or in breach of standards of professional behaviour. My actions when working undercover for SDS were with the knowledge and approval of my line managers. Having taken legal advice, I do not intend to answer any further questions at this stage. That is the wording of your statement. If you want, I can take you to your actual handwritten
No, that's fine.
copy.
That's fine.
So if we can stick with the typewritten formation, you had acted in a way contrary to the law and in breach of standards, hadn't you?
Well, in the context of this, I was covered by at all angles legally and professional behaviour within the confines of the SDS. Whatever I did within the SDS was professional and not contrary to the law, and that's what I was referring to.
Did you actually believe that being in the SDS put you above the law?
No, it didn't put me above the law, but everything was done you could do pretty much what you want apart from kill anybody. That was one of the things that was quoted to me at one time. It would be covered. You're in a situation where you are, it's an extremely unusual situation, but you had to be supported. We were supported by secrecy and the management and the whole structure around SDS.
Who said that to you?
Who's that?
Who said that you could do almost anything apart from kill anyone?
Well, I think that was a quote following there was that conflict I mentioned the other day. There was a big fight with the loyalists in that pub where the pub got flattened. I phoned up John Webb, who was one of the sergeants back then, and the following morning, and to ask him and tell him about this. He said, well, I'll phone up the hospital to see, because I was concerned there were possibly serious injuries there. And that's what he said to me. He said, don't worry, as long as you haven't killed anyone. And that was that.
So it doesn't sound like a conversation which you meant strictly literally.
No, but the sentiment that obviously was there, that we were covered, other than in extremis like that.
You were at all times subject to the Metropolitan Police Service's discipline, weren't you?
Yes, but again, under the auspices of the SDS.
And sexually deceiving a woman into a 5-year-long intimate relationship, as you did with Alison, brings the Metropolitan Police Service into disrepute, doesn't it?
Well, it does. Yes, it does, yeah.
My actions when working undercover for SDS were with the knowledge and approval of my line managers. On the basis of the evidence you've given us today, it was certainly with the knowledge and approval of Detective Inspector Lambert.
Yes, and others, I would imagine.
Yeah, you use the plural there. Can you be crystal clear with us which managers knew and approved of your actions?
The ones that were aware, well, again, certainly Noel War would have known about it. The people that thought, anyone that thought that they knew that I'd had a girlfriend clearly knew that I'd had sexual relations with that person. You don't have a long-term girlfriend and not have sexual relations. So by inference, and also they were the ones that the obvious ones that had spoken about it. But it was just inconceivable to me that all of those line managers who worked around me at that time must have got wind of that, known about it at the time. So that was my assumption. So yes, it was known, and I just got on with it.
If we take that document, unless there's, is there anybody else you want to add?
I can't think off the top of my head. Those are the two obvious names.
Can we take that document down now? Can we have up from B12 527239? Page 3, please. This is, we're rewinding to the early days of your contact with the SDS, the 11th of April 1994. This document is an internal document, SDS candidate presentation to Commander Ops. Could we go to the 4th paragraph? Each officer has been consistently assessed by supervising officers to have those 5 basic qualities essential to the undercover role: initiative, integrity, self-motivation, sound judgment, and the ability to perform well in stressful situations. Psychometric profiles appear to confirm these assessments and additionally provide valuable management information. Would you claim now, in the aftermath of your inquiry, to have behaved with integrity?
Within the, I read that as being a role suitable within SDS, and integrity, you read loyalty to that unit. Not a general, I think it's a generalisation, integrity in loyalty, I would say that is. And within those confines, yes.
In the sense of someone who will tell the truth, you have had to accept that you didn't on very many occasions.
That is true, but then that is the definition of being an undercover police officer. You are a professional liar, but integrity means loyalty, keeping that within the unit. Your
lies have gone well beyond the lies that you told to your group. They include a lot of lies that you told to your managers.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Would you accept that you did not demonstrate integrity?
Well, possibly not in those terms, but we're certainly successful.
Sound judgment?
Yeah, I suppose so.
Do you really think you exercise sound judgment in forming a sexual relationship with Alison and continuing it for 5 years?
In the context of what I was doing at that time, that was a decision I made. I wasn't pushed into it. That was my own decision. And I thought it would be of benefit to the operation that I was undergoing.
I'm asking you to look back now. Are you maintaining that was an exercise of sound judgment?
Looking back now, 20, 30 years later, probably not.
Only probably not?
Well, no, clearly it wasn't, no.
Psychometric profiles appear to confirm these assessments and additionally provide valuable management information. What we would like to know is this. Did you give answers to the psychometric tests that were the answers you thought they want to hear, or did you honestly answer the questions?
I don't think there's any way of, from what I remember, you can't second guess what they're looking for there. I just took them at face value and answered them, whatever they were. I can't remember.
So if the inquiry is considering recruitment of undercover officers for the future, can we take it that it was the tests themselves that failed to detect risks that later eventuated?
Well, I think it depends on how confident you are that psychometric testing will find out what sort of people that you're dealing with. And I remember that myself and Jim Boiling, I think, were two of the people who started this. We were one of the guinea pigs for this thing. I don't think it had been brought in prior to this. But again, at that time, it's a tick box exercise, I think, by management to say, yes, we've done all our best to sort of filter out the right people. And that's all we looked at it at being.
Thank you. In the same file, can we have page 5, please? This is, again, recruitment documents. If we could have the second paragraph expanded. This is a profile about you. Born and raised in privacy, worked as a privacy before staying at home to look after the children. Like her husband, she is very relaxed and personable. DC Jenner is very much a family man and understandably proud of his children. Demonstrably a happy household. Highlights of the Jenner's year include summer camping holidays in France and regular visits to grandparents. Was it true when you joined the SDS that you were very much a family man?
Yes, it is true.
If so, what led you to behave very much not like a family man in your deployment?
Well, I think you become a completely different person. That is completely different from the person. So Mark Cassidy was a completely different person from Mark Jenner. And so, yeah, I couldn't have gotten much further away in my undercover role than that. But it did strike me, why they specifically wanted people with stable family backgrounds to join that unit. That always struck me as a bit of a strange anomaly.
As I'm understanding you, you were back to where we were this morning because you were role-playing to the full Mark Jenner.
That's right, yeah.
You're not saying that you lost your identity?
No, I always knew who I was, yeah, deep down.
If we could take that down now, please. You gave some evidence this morning about being inoculated against hepatitis B. Can I just be clear? When were you inoculated against Hep B?
It would have been when I was in the back office, so the end of 1994, before I deployed.
And was that because you were going to deploy as an undercover police officer?
Yes, I wouldn't have had it any other reason.
Was that standard practice, as far as you were aware, for every SDS officer to receive that inoculation?
I don't think it was. No, I think it was at the suggestion of Bob Lambert. I think who had said to me, this is right at the very early days, talking about anarchists and squats and stuff like that. So it was really his idea to be prepared for that.
So because you were at that stage.
That's right.
The thinking was you were going to go into
yes, I wasn't sure.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, that's right.
Was any part of the explanation connected to the risk of sexual relationships?
No.
Did you think it was necessary?
I was willing to trust the judgment of Bob, and of course, if you can get yourself inoculated against something like this. I wasn't going to knock it back. I mean, it's quite an expensive treatment. It's a 3-part treatment. So, no, I thought it was, yeah, I was willing to take it, but I didn't really appreciate it. I didn't think I'd need it. But, yeah, if it was offered, I was going to take it, and I did.
You gave some evidence earlier in your before today that Alison had procured a mobile phone for you using documents associated with her address. We've been told that Alison denies doing that. Are you sure that she did that?
Yeah, because as I said, at that this would have been, it must have been 96, sometime in 96. It was impossible in those days to get hold of a mobile phone without having a fixed address and various other documentation, which I didn't have clearly because I didn't have any sort of utility documentations, etc., etc. So she offered, this is my recollection, she offered to get one. Was it in my name, or it was addressed to her, or the billing was addressed to her because obviously her name was on the utility bills, etc. But it was for my use. I can't remember whose name the actual the phone was bought in, but I used it on that basis until such time that I'd been resident at that flat to get my own credentials.
Why couldn't the SDS provide you with a mobile?
Well, I think in those days they were, my understanding of it, these were contract phones, and I don't remember it was possible for them to provide one. I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I was certainly more comfortable in trying to get one myself. I did mention this because one of the operators one of the officers before me had one, but he obviously gone the long way round, and he said that they won't buy you one. This is something you've got to get yourself.
Who paid for this phone?
I did. Well, no, I would have paid it. Like I say, me. It was through the SDS fund.
But some of the evidence you gave when we were talking about accommodation was to the effect that in your role as a builder, you were too poor to have something like that.
Well, yeah, so as a builder, I was just basically, very sort of low-paid builder. I was actually employed by somebody. Well, I wasn't in a wage, but it wasn't the financial side of it so much as having the correct documentation to be able to get hold of one.
Did using a phone registered to Alison cause any risk to her, given some of the characters you were mixing with?
Well, yeah, I can see your point, but I can't remember whether it was actually registered to her or whether she just provided the documentation. I don't know, but certainly had it been that way round, yes, there would have been a risk to some degree to her.
Was that a risk you gave any consideration to?
Not especially, no, because it seemed a very low risk at the time.
Can I ask you, finally, at this stage of proceedings, have you spoken to other undercover officers about the inquiry?
Yes, I have, yes.
And have you spoken to them about the evidence that you were going to give?
No.
Into being very careful about anonymity, writing down the names unless you're absolutely sure they can be uttered publicly. Can you let us know who you have communicated with?
There's only one officer.
Is it?
Yeah.
Thank you. So those are all my questions at this stage. I understand there may be an application for you.
So do I. Can the live link be cut off at this point, please?
We've had an email from Mr. McCulloch.
No, I wasn't able to access that, no.
And you haven't watched a recording of it?
No, I haven't, no.
Was that not of interest to you?
Well, it would have been, but I looked at trying to find the thing on YouTube, but I couldn't find it, so...
I say watched a recording. I think it was not, in fact, a video. It was an audio recording only.
Okay, no, I haven't, no. And of course it would have been of interest to me, but I couldn't find it.
So we know you married S in August of 1986.
Correct, yeah.
And by the time of your deployment in the SDS, you had young children. We're not stating ages or numbers.
Correct.
And S had a further child with you during your deployment with the SDS, again, not stating years or dates.
Correct.
And you were married, you remained married to S after your deployment ended.
Correct.
In your evidence yesterday, you stated that prior to your SDS deployment, you had been faithful to S for many years. Had you always been faithful to her before your deployment?
Yes.
I want to turn to Bob Lambert's visit to your home to meet S, and it's a visit at which you were present.
Yes.
Do you remember that visit, which, as far as one can tell, was in early 1994?
I do remember it, yeah.
In your witness statement, you suggest that DCI Edmondson accompanied DI Lambert on this visit.
Correct, yes.
Is that still your recollection?
Yes, it is.
S indicates that she recalls only Bob Lambert being there. Do you think you might be mistaken?
No, it's definitely both.
You've seen, and we'll come to it in a moment, the note which refers to that visit, which indicates only Bob Lambert being there. There's no reference to DCI Edmondson being on the visit.
I definitely recall that both of them, unless there were two visits, but yes, they were both together.
So your recollection differs from that of S, and so far as it goes, the note?
It would appear to, but I say, are we talking about one visit or two? I can't remember.
I think there's only suggested that there was one visit.
Right, in that case, it was definitely accompanied by DCI Edmondson, yeah.
As to that visit, S describes a chat over a cup of tea with her absenting herself to make the tea for part of the visit, I think in her oral evidence, which you won't have heard.
Okay.
But she said that she wasn't particularly keen to be there for all of the meeting and was happy to be apart from you and D.I. Lambert during the meeting. Is that a broadly accurate recollection?
If she says that's what, yeah, that's fine, I accept that, yeah.
And she says that the visit was for just less than an hour. Would that also be
Yeah, I would say
your
that's
recollection?
about right, yeah, yeah.
As she recalls, there was an emphasis of what Bob Lambert imparted at the meeting, which was the requirement for secrecy. Does that accord with your recollection?
Yes, well, yeah, I do remember that, yeah.
Can we have up on the screen MPS document 052 7239? The document you were taken to a moment ago by Mr. Barr. And if we look at page 1 first, just to locate you, if we could highlight the upper third of the document. So this seems to be a proposal for you and two other officers to be recruited for employment on the SDS.
Yes.
We don't see a date at the top, but the attached minute is dated the 11th of April. From the substantive paragraph, you can see that the branch note, and we'll come to that in a moment, describes each candidate professionally and domestically. So if we then turn on to page 3 of the document, please. The second paragraph. We see that all relevant inquiries have been made. All relevant professional and domestic background inquiries. And then moving to the fourth paragraph of that page, I think you were taken to this a moment ago by Mr. Barr. And we saw the 5 basic qualities essential to the undercover role, and Mr. Barr emphasised and explored with you, in particular those of integrity and sound judgment. I won't, given his questions on that, I won't dwell on that. Could we move on to page 5? And so this is the part of the document which refers to you. You confirmed with Mr. Barr that the family situation described is accurate, and you'll recall the relevant paragraph.
Yeah, yeah.
So, having looked at what seemed to be the relevant parts of that document referring to all relevant professional and domestic inquiries, As far as you know, is the home visit by Bob Lambert, with or without DCI Edmondson, the full extent of the domestic inquiries made?
As far as I can remember, yes.
You have no knowledge of any further pre-deployment assessment of S or your family background beyond that single visit?
No, I think that was the only time that that S was around the time when we were being interviewed. It was on that one occasion. There was never any other time that I can recall that that ever happened.
Yeah, thank you. It may be a naive question, but did Bob Lambert provide any warning to S of the risks of sexual relations being pursued in an undercover role?
No.
Reminding ourselves of what you said in your witness statement and confirmed in your oral evidence, you do remember having a discussion about sexual relationships before your deployment, and Andy Coles had told you that they were inevitable and eventually you will end up with no option or risk exposure. Was that risk a concern that was raised by you with S?
No.
Why not?
I think it's when I was made aware of that, and I think I've said in a previous statement that I just didn't think that would ever, I couldn't conceive of that ever happening to me.
Yes. So would that make it not all the more likely that you would raise it with S, to say that you'd been warned about this, but you didn't think it was an issue for you?
No, not at all. I wouldn't want to concern her with that.
So there was a known risk of sexual relationships undercover, known by you but thought by you to be inapplicable to your particular circumstances.
Correct.
And neither you nor anyone else informed S of those risks, is that right?
Correct.
In obtaining her agreement and positive support for you embarking on an undercover role, it's fair to say S was kept in deliberate ignorance of those risks, isn't it?
As it transpired, yes, but of course, this whole sex thing, I said, it wasn't irrelevant, so it was irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. But yes, on the face of it, she wasn't made aware of that at all. I didn't discuss what I'd spoken to Andy Coles about with her at all, no.
Yeah. You say as it transpired, but I mean, that was the position at the time.
At the time, yes, yeah.
So related to this, can we move to an issue of sexual health and consideration of S in that context? In your evidence yesterday, you denied having told Alison that you had had an HIV test. You recall that?
Yes.
And you denied that Alison had inquired about your HIV status or had a concern to ensure your sexual health.
That's right, yes.
And you accepted that in those days there were heightened concerns, in particular from the threat of AIDS and HIV.
Yes.
Before you embarked on a sexual relationship with a new partner in your undercover role, did you consider the risk that may pose to S's sexual health?
Yes, I did.
And what consideration did you give as to that?
The use of a condom. And then later on, of course, when I got to know Alison, I trusted her and that wasn't an issue. So no, I didn't. Beyond that, that was as far as it went.
You say that Alison had been in a previous relationship. You knew that Alison had been in a previous relationship.
Yes.
I'm not suggesting on behalf of S that you were wrong to trust Alison, but trust does not equate to elimination of risk, does it?
Accepted, yes.
Even if the second partner is being entirely honest.
Correct.
So did you not give that consideration? It may have been a risk you were prepared to run, having met and got to know Alison. But what about the health of S at home?
No, that was not something I considered, no.
Why not?
I didn't, no.
Why not?
For no reason. I just, it wasn't a consideration. It was wrong, obviously, but I should have considered it, but I didn't.
Now, Mr. Barr has asked you and covered considerable ground about the knowledge of your colleagues and supervisors as to your relationship with Alison. And that's been, what you say about that in your witness statement has been explored and expanded upon significantly in your oral evidence. I think, seeking to summarise it, there were a number of your colleagues and a number of your supervisors who were aware of your sexual relationship with Alison.
Correct.
And to an extent, I think your evidence is that it was a tacit understanding amongst some people and not expressly spoken about, and it was explicitly known by others. Is that a fair summary?
Correct, yeah.
So in that context, if we turn to the subject of Christmas parties, can we turn up the document at UCPI 50/36037? And the second page, please. Now, this was an invitation that was put to S during the course of her evidence in questions from Mr. Barr. And she was clear that she didn't, in fact, attend this particular Christmas party, but had attended other ones during your deployment.
Okay.
And having read her witness statement, you'll recall that she remembers 3 in particular, those Christmas parties. We see that they're headed from the 27 Club. What's the meaning of the 27 Club?
I think it was, what was it? I can't remember. It refers to the number of, no, it's like an internal, I don't know, I can't remember now.
You don't know why?
It's a special branch, maybe people 27 years old of the SDS. I can't actually remember what it stands for now. But it's an internal.
A particular SDS code or internal joke?
Yeah, no, it's not a joke. It's is it? How old would the SDS have been back then? May be.
I interrupt? The SDS was started in 1968. This is 27 years afterwards.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Did it continue to be called the 27 Club for subsequent invitations?
I wouldn't have thought so, but I don't know that for sure.
Right.
No.
I'll leave that.
Okay.
As far as the other Christmas parties are concerned, S has given evidence of socialising with other undercover officers, your supervisors, the wives of both, and being introduced to your colleagues.
Correct, yeah.
And is it fair to say that these were occasions to acknowledge and appreciate, at least in part, the supportive role played by undercover officers' families, their wives, spouses, and the sacrifices they were making?
Yes.
S has said in her evidence, it's no need to turn it up, but paragraph 38 of her statement, that during the Christmas parties, she remembers frequently being asked about the children, and she says that makes it particularly upsetting and awful if any of them knew about your relationship. They did know, didn't they?
On this particular occasion, or
we know she wasn't there.
The subsequent
ones, not the 1995.
Yes, well, some of them would have done. Yeah.
And you said to Mr. Barr that you didn't find these occasions awkward, even in hindsight, because you said it was a social event.
That's right. Yes, it was.
Do you recognise the hypocrisy in holding an event in appreciation of the support and sacrifices made by wives and partners, whilst at the same time colluding in the betrayal of those wives in the undercover officers' roles?
In hindsight, yes.
Mr. Barr has covered, and I won't go through the identities of the officers who knew or would have known. I'm not going to dwell on the house move. I think S has indicated her distress at that, and you, in your oral evidence yesterday, said that it was massively traumatic.
It was, yeah.
Including a need for change of school.
Yes, it was terrible, yeah.
Loss of her support network.
Yeah.
And the house that you moved to, she, as indicated, was in a decrepit state and needed a lot of renovation.
It was pretty poor, yeah.
So she was isolated, taking prime responsibility for your young children.
Yes.
In a new property in a run-down, decrepit state.
It was not run down, but it was in poor repair, but it was habitable. But yes, that was the fact of it.
So with that by way of background to the topic of holidays and what S knew or understood in relation to those, you described in your oral evidence this morning a family holiday in 1995, which you said was disastrous. Would that have been a holiday to Tenerife? Oh, no. Sorry, Tunisia.
Yes.
Tunisia.
Yes.
Yeah. S says that disastrous family holiday to Tunisia was in 1997, and you're mistaken about it being in 1995.
No, it was 1995.
In 1995, do you recall you went with her to a Greek island, just as a couple, with your parents looking after the children?
Yeah, yes, I do. I know. Yes, I had forgotten about that. I don't know when in 1995 that was. But yes, I do remember that now.
And that would have been the only holiday abroad that you had in 1995, and that Tunisia was in fact in 1997, 2 years later.
No, I think Tunisia was a package trip, and I'm convinced it's 1995. We didn't go away. I never went away with her in 1997. I wasn't able to do that. 1995 was the last time that I was able to get away.
Alison has given detailed evidence of numerous holidays and breaks away that you went on together. And as I understand your evidence from questions from Mr. Barr, you broadly accept that she's accurate in all those details?
Yes.
The dates, the venues, the destinations. And you have explained that those trips were taken in your own time, not work time. They were taken as
annual leave.
Yeah. And you explained that it was using up your holiday allowance that would otherwise have been time, well, it was using up your holiday allowance, but this was time that you could have spent with your own young family, either at home or on holiday.
On paper, yes, but it wasn't practicable for me to do that, to absent myself from the SDS cover that I was under at the time.
You never told S that you were using your holiday allowances for what was presented to her as work trips, did you?
No, it was part of my wages as well as her. It was a joint account, and I took what I needed.
Sorry, just going back to the Tunisia question and the date of that. Could we turn up document MPS 0527792, which I think may assist? And if we go to page 4 of that document and look at paragraph 4.3. So we see the reference to the holiday in Tunisia. What we need to do now is anchor that to the date of this document, which I think if we look at page 1, that's not the cover page, sorry, page 2. In the first paragraph. You see at 1.1.
Yes, yeah.
Do you think S is likely to be right and you mistaken in relation to timing of that trip?
No, I think that 1997 and the summer of 1997, the holiday to Tunisia, that was probably what I used as a cover when I went to Israel. The family holiday that we took together to Tunisia actually happened in 1995.
Sorry, so if we go back then, so we've seen the reference to a trip with your wife and children on the returning on the 15th of May 1997. The significance of it is running into Kurt, and then move on again to page 4, paragraph 4.3. Yes, I see. So that is looking at a future trip.
Yes.
And not the one that you just returned from.
Yeah, that's right.
So that the point is that it's a holiday with your wife for a 2-week family holiday in Tunisia in a few weeks' time, and you say that that was a lie to your managers because what you were really doing was going to Israel.
Correct.
And so this doesn't support S's recollection that the Tunisia family holiday was in 1997.
No, she's read that and got it wrong, but it was definitely 1995.
I don't think it's based on this document.
Okay.
I understand your answer. In relation to funds, you said in answer to Mr. Barr that these were paid from your joint account. And my question is, how did the Mark Jenner joint account pay for holidays for Mark Cassidy?
Cash. It was cash, so I'd withdraw cash, then put it into my cover account.
And the flights, everything, you just withdrew cash from the family joint account?
Yes, I mean, but that wasn't just exclusively for these holidays. It was to top up my SDS running account. That was a routine thing. I was always having to top it up.
You said in your evidence that S didn't know that you were funding your overseas trips from the joint account.
Yes, that's right.
And I can indicate to you you are correct in that. Was that another deceit perpetrated on her?
Yes.
You described in your oral evidence your trips with Alison as being nice holidays, and you were having a really enjoyable time together. From the end of 1997, S was living in a shabby, decrepit house that needed renovating in an entirely new area and had been removed, as we've heard, from her network of friends and social support looking after your children. In relation to S's own holidays, whilst you were enjoying those with Alison, do you recall that she was generally holidaying with the children without you in places in the UK, for example, staying with a friend in Wales?
Yes.
staying in a caravan in North Cornwall,
Yes.
spending the millennium staying with friends in southeast London,
Yes.
all without you, with you away with Alison.
Yes.
Christmas 1998, moving to New Year 1999, she went with the children to Australia on a holiday. You recall
Correct.
that?
Yes, I do.
Again, without you.
That's right, yeah.
And was that because you had used up all your leave on holidays with Alison?
Well, no, I had no intention at that stage. I couldn't get away on a holiday abroad, and she was going to go and visit family
Why not?
because I couldn't abstract myself from the SDS, not just the Alison thing, but the whole work. It was impossible for me to justify being away for 3 weeks or whatever it was.
When she returned from Australia, she recalls that you were supposed to have varnished the floor of the rundown new house with multiple coats of varnish. Do you recall that?
Yeah, and I did.
And that you'd only done one coat, which was still wet when she got back.
Well, I don't recall that, no, as far as I was concerned. I did a lot of work on that house while they were away.
And we won't go over it again, but you've been through holidays, family occasions, Christmases away from your own family on the false pretext of work.
That's right.
You described that this morning as a dilemma, but that you had no alternative because it was part and parcel of your role.
Correct.
I'd suggest to you that is simply untrue. You had an honourable alternative, but you chose not to take it.
Yes, an honourable alternative such as it was, but I was embedded in an undercover unit, a long-term operation, and I wasn't going to jeopardise that. She understood that. Yes, it was very difficult for her. I don't underestimate that at all. But as far as I was concerned, I had to stick to that script that I was doing. And it was difficult. Yeah, of course it was. And I appreciate she must have found it extremely difficult. I know that. There's nothing better, more than I would have wanted, to spend time with my family. Young children at Christmas, of course I would. But it just wasn't feasible.
Final topic, day-to-day involvement with your own family. You said in your witness statement that you considered yourself to be on duty and in your cover identity pretty much all the time, 90% of the time. Alison, you'll recall, has described your routine, and I don't think you dispute this as a routine, that you set off for work every day at around 6:30 a.m. and would return to her flat at around 5:30 p.m.
Yes, correct.
So that was your weekday routine.
Yes.
And that was also what is reflected in a file note that Mr. Barr took you to, made by Bob Lambert on the 28th of January 1997. We don't need to turn it up again. You were
Yes,
shown to
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and you recall that.
Yeah.
So S's evidence, contrary to your suggestion, is that during your time with the SDS, you were generally around a lot during the day,
Yes, I was.
at home with her and the children.
Yes.
She says it actually felt like you were spending some good time together over that period. That you would take the children to and from nursery, take them swimming, or to medical appointments.
Correct.
Is that all correct?
Yes.
And that you got into a pattern of you being away at night and going away at weekends. She says it was a bit of an inside-out life, but you were definitely present.
Yes.
So, as she says, you were spending a good chunk of time at home during the day, on at least 5 days a week, although you had your meetings on Mondays and Thursdays.
Correct.
And that you were generally there from the early morning until around 5 or 6 p.m., sometimes later in the evening.
Correct.
She says when he was coming home and when he was at home, I thought it was him as him. That's the impression you were
Yes, of course, yeah.
aiming to create. So when you finished your deployment, you didn't need to reintegrate with your family. From S's point of view, there were no difficulties about your return at the end of your deployment.
Well, from her point of view, yes. Of course, I did have to not physically integrate in terms of time, but it's the psychological effects of integrating back full-time from a full-time deployment on SDS.
But you'd been involved with the family, as she describes, and you agree, with the swimming trips, taking children to nursery trips, doing domestic things with the family during the days.
That's right.
So it wasn't a reintegration. I appreciate it was an adjustment for you.
Well, I think it was more than just an adjustment. I mean, the children were young. I'm not around at weekends. Yes, I was in there, during the week, but that doesn't cover all of the time that I could have spent with them elsewhere. I was an absent father, pretty much. I was aware of that. I had a lot of ground to try and make up. So yes, I think it was more than just I was already acquainted with them. Of course I was, but this was a proper reintegration and establishing myself as a father again, which from their perspective, they were young enough not to really appreciate my absences, I assume, but I was now around them full time, and that was a very difficult period of adjustment, yeah.
So her comment is that while the realities of your deployment did impact on your family life, the biggest impact on them came from the way you behaved while undercover and the press attention that followed. You agree that's a fair comment?
With hindsight, do you mean, or the press attention only came much later? I mean, we're still talking about my general reintegration or my initial reintegration.
The point that she's making is that your deployment had an impact, a significant impact on family life, but the massive impact came from the way that you had behaved when it emerged.
Yes, yeah. No.
And the press attention which followed.
Of course, yeah, of course. I accept that, yeah.
It's fair to say, isn't it, that throughout your career in the police, including your undercover deployment, S was unfailingly loyal and supportive, making huge sacrifices for you to pursue your career ambitions and what she believed was serving the wider public good.
Absolutely right, yeah.
How do you feel you repaid that loyalty?
Well, again, with hindsight, yes, she paid a far heavier price than I did. I accept that. The reason that, we discussed this job, before I joined, we discussed it together. I knew it was going to be difficult, obviously not to the extent that it proved to be, but it was always because it would be we'd have a better future. I thought financially we'd be secure and it would be a better future. And that's what I'd always hoped for. Obviously that didn't happen, and she suffered a great deal for it. It wasn't about the money. I think it was about the family life and the time that obviously that we'd missed, and then suddenly this enormous bombshell of publicity and all the accompanying events thereafter.
You've accepted in your oral evidence that your behaviour constituted a gross betrayal, I think, with your words, of S.
Yes.
You have never given S any private or personal apology for your conduct in the SDS, have you?
One of the problems that when the marriage broke down was that we didn't have any communication. I've actually spoken to her probably 13 years. I could have spoken to her earlier on. I didn't. This was before all the publicity. We didn't have that conversation. I think Mr. Barr called it a moral cowardice, and I accept that. I couldn't face that. And I think on the back of that, the worst of it has happened, but I've never had an opportunity to speak to her about it since then.
Or send any other communication?
She's completely ignored everything. She doesn't want to have anything to do with me whatsoever. Anything that the contact that she wants to make with me is usually via the children.
So no private or personal apology to her. You've not taken the opportunity in your lengthy witness statement to take any personal responsibility for the way that you have treated her, let alone an apology there, have you?
I haven't. I'd rather speak to her myself on that matter, not to make it a matter of public record, no.
So there's nothing you would now wish to say in relation to your conduct and its impact on S by way of an apology?
I'm not going to apologise now through this means, but as I said with Alison, I'm quite happy to apologise with her face to face, or she'd rather write or whatever. Of course I would do that, but I'm not prepared to make it in a public arena, no.
So thank you. Those are my questions, and I'm very grateful to the inquiry for being afforded the privilege of asking them. And I know S is as well.
Thank you, Mr. McCulloch. I apologise on behalf of the inquiry if the misunderstanding which led to the debate, which preceded your helpful email, was the fault of my fault or the staff of the inquiry, or in any way to do with the inquiry, but it's all resolved.
So not at all. It has been resolved, and I'm grateful.
So before we break for the Rule 10 process, and there will need to be a break for that.
Of course.
There is one factual matter arising from my learned friend's questioning that I think it might assist if I put.
Yes. I think the transcriber should know that there will be a break of at least 15 minutes.
At least.
Yes.
And this is a very short point.
Yes.
My learned friend put a document to you, the evidence about Tunisia.
Yes.
According to the chronology that we have, and the document you were shown dated from May of 1997, the trip to Israel was between the 3rd and the 18th of August. There was, though, a trip to Applecross, Scotland, over the break over May, the end of May into June of 1997. Does my reminding you of those facts affect your evidence about Tunisia in 1997 at all?
Yeah, I certainly remember the trip to Applecross, but I take what you say. That was the date of it, but the whole Tunisia thing, obviously that was a ruse by me, but I don't know what particular holiday I referred to. So I don't know is the answer.
Thank you.
Right. We'll break for, as I say, at least 15 minutes. The Rule 10 process may take a little longer. If it does, so be it.
Oh, I see.
Thank you for your patience, sir, which I hope will have enabled me to distill the outstanding questions to everyone's advantage. First of all, Mr. Jenner, the Trevor Monaville Committee, I asked you some questions about the occasion right at the start of your deployment when you attended an event. Our understanding now is that the march in question ran from the murder site to Stoke Newington Police Station to the Halkivi Centre. Might that be right?
Yes.
And do you recall being introduced to John Burke Monaville on that occasion?
No.
Are you saying you don't remember, or it didn't
I do
happen?
remember, and I wasn't, no.
Can I ask now, there's a difference between your evidence yesterday about whether or not you gained, whether you got personal benefit from the sexual relationship with Alison. Yesterday you said no personal benefits, today many personal benefits. Just to be crystal clear, which is it?
Personal benefits in terms of sexual activity? Or?
Not just sexual activity, but benefiting generally from the relationship, including sex.
No tangible benefits, no.
But food and accommodation and...
Yeah, only what I paid for, yeah, I did contribute. I wasn't completely relying on her. I paid her food and some money for, well, I paid her money for food as well as the general rental thing. But, of course, I had access to a telephone and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And a loving relationship.
Absolutely, yeah.
So which is it? No personal benefits or personal benefits?
Well, it's personal under the auspices of the SDS, yes.
Israel, you have to come back early because you've been ill. Yeah. You come back about a week early?
Something like that, yes, I can't remember.
What do you do with that extra week? Where are you during that week?
I spent that in Alison's address.
Alison's recollection was that you weren't there. Are you sure?
Unless I'd gone back, unless I said I'd gone back to work, in which case I wouldn't be there.
But where would you be?
Well, if it was suggesting I wasn't there overnight.
Can you recall where you were in that week?
No.
Today you've told us about how Detective Inspector Lambert came to know that you were going to cohabit with Alison and were in a sexual relationship with her. You did not divulge that fact in your witness statement to the inquiry. On the contrary, you said that he didn't know. Why were you trying to protect Bob Lambert?
I wasn't trying to protect him, but the thing, it's all this inferences. You know, I was. He was made aware. Then I said that, look, to the officers that I named there, this is what I am going cohabiting or living with, and he said what he said about, be careful about the amount of time that you're, going to have to devote to this. So it was always an inference, but I think given, he knew, I assumed that he knew that when you're living with one of your people, then yes, that is a sexual...
So why weren't you fully forthcoming in your witness statement?
I don't know.
You gave some evidence to the effect that you knew someday that Alison would think the worst of you. A difficulty with that answer is that presumably at the time you thought Alison would never find out.
Who I was.
Yes.
But the thing is that if I disappear, yes, regardless of who I happened to be, the fact that I wasn't there and I'd left her under such quick, sudden circumstances, then yes, of course she's going to be very upset by that.
The question of depression and your mental state when you were executing your exfiltration
Yeah.
strategy and the state of mind you were presenting to Alison. How much of that was genuine and how much of it was false?
I think at the time it was probably 60-40 genuine. I mean, depression, I know, is actual clinical illness, but it was, I was pretty torn up at the time.
But you were still putting a good deal of it on.
Yes, obviously, yes, it was to that advantage, but I was, obviously pretty upset by it all as well.
Because you were deliberately destroying the relationship.
Yes.
I'm going to read now a paragraph from the Metropolitan Police's opening statement from an earlier phase in the inquiry. I'm going to ask you whether this apology is one that you would align yourself with.
Okay.
The MPS accepts that these sexual relationships occurred and that further relationships will be examined during the inquiry's later investigations of T2, T3 and T4. Now the material part. Such conduct was a gross violation of the women's privacy and human rights. It was abusive, deceitful, manipulative and wrong. The MPS apologises again unreservedly to the women whose lives have been and continue to be affected. The MPS also apologises to the wives, partners and families who have also been harmed by the misconduct of the UCOs and the failure by the SDS managers and senior MPSB management to prevent that misconduct.
And I concur with that, yeah.
Does the acronym CRAP, meaning clarity, readability, accuracy and presentation, ring any bells?
No.
Were you taught that that was how you should report?
No, I've never heard that acronym before.
Can I ask you some further questions now about the conversation you had with John Dines before you deployed? Appreciate that I did go over this with you, but I want to see if we can get any further.
Okay.
Can you help us with John Dines's frame of mind as it appeared to you in that conversation?
So we met in a pub. He was, I would describe him as being fairly withdrawn. But that was, I don't know whether that was because I'd never met him before and he, he'd been asked to meet me. So, yeah, I'd say withdrawn. But that was all. I didn't notice anything outside of that.
What exactly did he say to you?
I can't remember the exact thing, but he did ask me what area I was looking to be put in. And at that time, I didn't know, and he was speculating, and he said, "But I think he described me as being hard-faced, and so he said, well, that would be a limiting to where they'd want to put you." I thought hard-faced in terms of being quite stern and I don't know, physical looking, in his opinion. So that was that, really. It was on that sort of level. There's no sort of in-depth discussion. I let him speak. It was really for him to divulge anything he wanted to me about getting involved in the SDS. But it was on that level.
Did anybody give you any advice about feigning depression as part of your exit strategy?
No.
Was it suggested to you that that was a tried and tested way of exfiltrating?
No, it wasn't. I know, but I did. I think there's mention of it. I don't know if in Andy Coles's thing, there's mention sort of, it was grumpy or something like that. There's some sort of reference to that. I can't remember, but I don't remember anybody else telling me about it or that would be a useful way of exfiltrating. But feigning disinterest, I think, was one of the other things. But to me, that sounded very weak. Had to be something much more than that, because these people are committed people. You don't just get bored and wander off forever.
I asked you when we were going through the letters that you wrote to Alison as part of your exfiltration strategy whether you'd had any advice or guidance. And I was showing you a line at the time about you saying that you regretted the things you did and the things that you hadn't done. That is a line that is remarkably similar to contents of other similar exfiltration letters that we've seen. Are you sure you weren't given any guidance as to how to write those?
Absolutely sure.
Finally, I asked you when we were exploring accommodation a number of questions, and at one point you said to me that that Mark Metcalfe had invited you to live with him, which was an invitation you'd declined. Can we just be clear exactly why you decline an invitation to live with Mark Metcalfe, but you accept an invitation to live with Alison?
I think the invitation from Metcalfe wasn't live with him. It could stay with him, as in he had spare room. I'd been round to his place before, but it wasn't a long-term arrangement. And I think that was on the back of the state of the place that I was staying in at the time. I mean, he wanted to make himself useful, but there was no indication that was, and it certainly wouldn't have been characteristic of him to offer me long-term accommodation at his place. It was somewhere to stay, no more than that.
But why didn't you accept that offer?
Because I didn't need a short-term place to stay.
Was the fact that he was a named target anything to do with it?
Well, possibly, yes. I was very close to him, but I didn't need a short-term stay. I had a short-term stay in that flat.
And was the contrast between staying with Mark Metcalfe and staying in a loving sexual relationship with Alison a completely different proposition?
Completely different proposition.
Far more attractive to you?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Food, sex and shelter.
That's it.
Those are all my questions.
So I've got no re-examination. There was only one factual matter. And I spoke to Mr. McCulloch about it when he asked Mr. Jenner about whether he'd watched the audio-video recording on YouTube and then corrected himself, maybe just the audio recording. In fact, neither have been made publicly available. And of course, Mr. Jenner said he couldn't find it when he looked on YouTube. That's all.
Thank you for that. That now concludes your oral evidence. I'm aware, despite everything, that it is a strain for you to have to give public evidence about these matters. I appreciate your frankness today in what you have said, and I am greatly assisted by your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We will now adjourn until next year, I think until the 2nd of February. I hope I've got my date right.
I think you have, sir.
Good. May everybody who has attended have an enjoyable Christmas and New Year. Thank you.
All rise.